The first time Thomas Rourke ever cried in front of another person. He was 47 years old, sitting in the back seat of his bulletproof town car as the Manhattan skyline faded behind tinted glass. The man who built an empire out of steel and willpower, who turned a failing logistics company into a global juggernaut with cold precision and sleepless ambition, found himself undone by a peanut butter sandwich. It was handed to him by a man whose name he didn't even know. Rewind just 10 days earlier. Rourke was the kind of CEO whose name inspired both awe and fear. Tall, silver-haired, with a wardrobe stitched in silence and power, he walked through glass corridors like a ghost. In a fortress. His offices spanned the top 3 floors of the Rourke Global Building in Midtown Manhattan. He didn't believe in small talk. He believed in results. His days were carved into 15-minute increments. Breakfast was a protein shake consumed while skimming 5 screens of financial data. Meetings began and ended on the minute. His executive team often joked, though never in his presence, that he could squeeze blood from stone if it improved quarterly margins. And yet, no one really knew the man behind the metrics. Not even Thomas. The crisis came on a Tuesday. A rogue trade in their Pacific shipping subsidiary unraveled a multi-million-dollar deal. Within hours, headlines began splashing across screens. Rourke Global faces financial reckoning. He tried to control it, tried to pivot, fire, reassign, restructure. But the harder he pushed, the more the seams frayed. The media turned vicious. Investors grew cold. His board began whispering. That evening, as he exited the office alone, he walked further than usual before summoning his car. His mind, usually so disciplined, refused to focus. For once, he felt the edge of something raw and unfamiliar. It was then he saw the man on the corner, a scraggly figure, seated on a bench with a small sign that read, "Smile if you need hope." Thomas frowned. The man looked up. "Tough day?" the stranger asked. Thomas blinked, surprised anyone had spoken to him without a title. "You have no idea," he muttered. The man rummaged through his bag. "I was about to have dinner. Want half?" Before Thomas could protest, the man offered half of a peanut butter sandwich wrapped in a napkin. There was something absurd about it. This stranger with holes in his coat, offering food to a man who owned 7 homes and flew private. But Thomas took it. He sat beside him. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. The sandwich was dry. The moment was real, and for the first time in decades, Thomas Rourke felt seen. He returned to his penthouse that night and didn't sleep. Not because of the looming collapse or the vicious headlines, but because of that simple act. The softness of it, the human pulse of kindness that broke through his steel walls. The next day, something shifted. He cancelled his regular meetings. He walked through the office floor, not above it. He looked his employees in the eyes. He listened. He asked about their families. People were confused at first, unsure how to interpret the sudden warmth, but it wasn't a performance. It was discovery. Thomas began spending his mornings at a community shelter a few blocks from headquarters. Quietly, anonymously, he served breakfast. He asked names. He washed dishes. It was there he saw the man again. "Hey, sandwich guy," Thomas said with a smile. The man laughed. "Hey, suit." His name was Lionel, a former warehouse manager who'd lost everything to medical bills and a bad economy. He never asked for anything. One morning, Thomas found Lionel gone. Another man said he was moved to a shelter uptown. Something about a bad cough. Thomas didn't hesitate. He called his driver, then cancelled his day. He found Lionel in a crowded ward. The man looked thinner, but his smile was still there. "Didn't expect a CEO to chase me down," he joked, wheezing. "Didn't expect a sandwich to change my life," Thomas replied. When Lionel recovered, Thomas offered him a job, not charity, opportunity. Lionel hesitated, but accepted, back at Rourke Global. Thomas made real changes. He restructured bonuses to reward collaboration over competition. He created a fund to support employees facing hardship. He installed on-site childcare, mental health counselors, and a new leadership training program focused on empathy. His board pushed back. Investors grumbled, but profits returned, higher than before, because people began to care. His company culture transformed. So did his life. He reconnected with his sister, estranged for years, began volunteering at schools, adopted a dog named Leo, traveled not for meetings, but to meet people. He gave away millions quietly to shelters, clinics, food banks, and one day he stood on a stage at a leadership conference, not to speak about growth, but grace. "I used to think efficiency was the highest good," he told the crowd. "But a peanut butter sandwich taught me the truth. The smallest kindness can course correct a life, even a life like mine." There wasn't a dry eye in the house. Lionel sat in the front row, now the director of community outreach at Rourke Global. After the talk, a young woman approached Thomas. "My father worked for you before he passed. You sent flowers to the funeral. You didn't know us, but you remembered his name. That meant the world." "Thank you," Thomas smiled, humbled. He had become the kind of leader he once scoffed at, human, present, kind. So, when people asked why he gave away millions to the homeless, 2 strangers, 2 shelters, his answer was simple: "Because someone gave me a sandwich." And that changed everything. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs hope today. Tell us your own story of kindness in the comments. Like, subscribe, and become part of a growing movement reminding the world it only takes one small act to change everything. You're watching The Kind Story, where kindness creates the greatest legacy of all.